Welcome back to Titans Up Today, episode 41. We have Vladlen Vronsky with us. How's it going today, Vladlen?
Going great, man. It's a great way to start the 1st of February as we record this, so it's awesome.
Exactly. Completely agree. And great way to spend a Saturday talking about your life, interesting things, what you're working on, and where you're going.
Hell yeah. I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited.
So to give people a little bit of a background, I think our conversation initially was interesting in the sense that you are a young entrepreneur, trader, man of many talents, many skills. You've done some development in the blockchain space and built some successful projects. You're a young person who's enterprising and working his way up in the world and still trying to define yourself in many different ways. So that give me an update and the audience a little bit of background on yourself and what brought you here to Titans Up today.
Yeah, what brought me to you here was just the word Titans of today. I have a friend, his name is Rav, and when we were young, he always used to tell me like there are sleeping giants out there. There are sleeping giants out there. And I was always like, what does that mean? And he basically broke it down to saying that a lot of people are great. There are many great people. A lot of them just haven't woke up to that fact. And so therefore they're called sleeping giants. And Titans of today is basically that once were sleeping giants are now the Titans of today. And so I think that's a great way to basically describe a lot of people who are going through their endurance phase of life, their figuring out phase of life, to where they're just trying to figure out what they want to do. And then they just become Titans, just like your podcast, just like yourself. And so that's what brought me here. I was like, dude, yeah, I want to talk on this podcast. I definitely want to. It's one of my first official podcasts with anyone, actually, other than one I did like many years ago, which was a good podcast. But Titans of Today, I think it's a great name. It's a great title. It's a good message for a lot of people in any phase of life, any age. And yeah, that's why I'm here. And I'm excited to hopefully share some game and some of my experiences. And you definitely hyped me up there. I love that.
Good.
It was really cool. It was really cool. Yeah, I do have a lot of things I'm involved in. I do have my hand on a lot of stuff. I'm still developing myself. I haven't reached that final destination. I don't think we ever will, because life is just a journey of figuring out ourselves and continuing to just become better. So yeah, I mean, it's a journey and we still keep on moving.
Exactly. We're going to crack into a lot of that stuff.
Heck yeah.
Because I said to a friend yesterday on the note of the progress and waking yourself up or just becoming awoken through the things of your life was, and this is a good friend that I've known since probably sixth grade. He's joining me in my business and helping me out with some things. And we were talking about how for so many years, I've been working 10, 12 years, just consistently trying different things. You're learning, maybe similar to yourself. You try this, you see how far you can get, you learn something, and then you reconnect with your sense of purpose or whatever you're doing to try to reorient yourself on the goals that you have. But all the time, you're constantly developing skills and talents and habits and techniques. Now today, where I'm teaching him how to participate in the business and contribute, it's all so clear to me. And I can explain this thing or that thing, this system, the way that process works to somebody with the utmost level of specificity. And it's all because of that continuous work that goes into your development and the journey of life. And then all of a sudden it seems you've broken through and
Yeah.
So
Beautiful things to be able to pass down that kind of stuff.
100%. And I will give you a 10 out of 10 for the camera setup. I think you have the absolute best camera and lighting that out of any guest that's been on Titans Up today. So
Thank you. Thank you. I think it helps because I'm an actor and so we do self-tape on auditions. You got to have the setup. So
there we go. So now the actor portion is a good segue into really the core of this conversation here. And that's about what we're talking about and your path and some of the things that you have tried throughout your career. If you create a map for us of where you started with entrepreneurship, maybe some challenges you've faced, things you've tried, things you've succeeded in. We're going to, of course, that's going to be hours long of content, but get us with the beginning of what really brought you to having a desire to do better things in your life and achieve great things.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a long story. To this day, I still struggle to see if I could shorten it and make it like an elevator pitch, but it's really tough. But we can always dive deeper into certain things. I'll give the surface level of it. I started off, first of all, my parents immigrated from Tajikistan, which is Central Asia, and they moved here on a shoestring budget and they built their life here. And I was 2 years old at the time. From then on, I just studied in school. I went through the entire American schooling system. and went to Catholic Memorial as a high school here in West Roxbury, Massachusetts. And then I went to Bridgewater State University as a college, and I graduated with a bachelor's in aviation science and business management. So it was a dual major with an idea of becoming a pilot. I originally wanted to be a fighter pilot as a young kid, and I did a bunch of things, youth military programs. I went to the Naval Academy summer seminar program to just get a tour, like a 2-week tour of how the Naval Academy would be like. And I liked it, but when I was young, I really was focused more on the girls and partying. So I was like, I don't really want to be this strict yet. And so I decided to just go to a regular state school. And that state school had aviation as a degree choice. And so I was like, heck yeah, let's do it. My parents were very kind enough to help me finance that whole endeavor. And so I thought I was going to be a commercial pilot, maybe a private pilot, private jet charter pilot. And I thought that was going to be a cool path. And so throughout my studies, I became more interested in finances. We had a business building, and I kept seeing the ticker there. They had a ticker just rolling around. They just kept going. And I'm like, that is so cool. And I see airline stocks there. And I'm like, airline stocks, what's that all about? And so that just piqued my curiosity into the financial markets. And I had a friend by the name of Antoine Stewart. I'm still very good friends with him. I'm his business partner in the corporate side of Perseverance marketing firm. And he runs an insurance brokerage business. And so, he kept telling me like, hey, come on in. Let me show you what it's all about. And so I was like giving my excuses at the time. Like, I'm busy with school. I don't really know if I really want to do that. I'm focused on being a pilot. And then finally, like, the pilot track was moving slower than I had thought it would. So I found some breaks in my schedule, and I decided to go meet with Antoine and just see what he's talking about here and see what he's been up to. He's my age and he's building a business apparently. That's cool. What's that all about? And when I got involved with Perseverance Marketing Firm with Antoine, that's when I got really like headfirst and dive deep headfirst into the insurance industry. And so he was selling life insurance. And so I wasn't really too sharp on the sales side, but what I really enjoyed was the interviewing and the recruiting. So interviewing insurance agents was like, I love that. Like being able to just share the business with them and then also like sift through candidates and then interview them and get to know them more. Like I'm just a people's person. I really like communicating with people and getting to know their different backgrounds. So interviewing was really fun. And I think I got him a lot of agents through that interviewing process to the point where it got a little messy and we needed some organization. And so through that need, I was like, okay, let's see if we could organize this thing by creating like a CRM or something of that sort. And so that's what I did. It was very simple, very robust through Google Sheets, nothing too crazy. And then Notion started to come out, and I started to use Notion for other things later down the line. But that was my initial foray into sales, marketing, recruiting, business building, and then financial markets, and then just learning the game, this game of finances. And I just became super obsessed with it to the point of learning about how do insurance companies work. And I found out that insurance companies have traders. So they take your premium, they put it into a general account, and that general account starts to become traded, whether it's bonds, futures, commodities. And these days it's Bitcoin and all these other cryptocurrencies. And so that's what insurance companies do. That's what Mass Mutual does as well. And so I was super obsessed. And that's when I got into day trading. And so now I day trade futures currently. In the day, I have set hours pretty much because I'm in the East Coast. So it's a little bit easier for me than the folks out in LA who have to wake up at 5, 6 a.m. I wake up at around 7:30 a.m. I do a little bit of a morning routine. And then I start trading at around 9 a.m., 9:30 markets open. And so that's where the volatility kicks in. And that's where I start trading. My own personal account, I do have some prop firm accounts. A lot of people don't like that terminology because it's not really a prop firm. It's just a firm that evaluates you based on your progress on a simulated account. I'm still working on a way to get myself into the professional side of trading, but it's a lot of gatekeepers there and it's not as easy as you would think it would be. having a passion in trading isn't enough to get your foot into the door for those places. You got to show some performance. And so my performance is based off of my personal account and these prop firms that I'm trading. So far, so good. No big losses. And it's been a good, steady track. I felt like I may have reached a plateau in it. And so right now I'm just working with a coach just to get me over the hill on that plateau of performance, because it's a risk game. You have to be able to be comfortable with risking enough to profit enough. That's pretty much what it is. Like, you have to be comfortable with the risk you're taking. And there's some risk that I'm still a little nervous to take. So that's the game. And so, yeah, my life insurance, I slowed down there a little bit, but I learned so much. But I'm more working on helping my friend build his business, essentially, like helping him with his branding, doing a lot of volunteer work for him. We recently, he partnered with a program called Navigate. And so that's teaching young kids how to become entrepreneurs at an early age. And that's awesome. So we went out to the Copley Center in Prudential and we helped kids basically get comfortable speaking to strangers, asking them questions and getting them to fill out a survey. And they learned a lot of valuable skills there. And now it's great. So the program is called Navigate. It was partnered with the YMCA Achievers Group. And so that was super fun. And so that's what we've been doing a lot. And so basically my main focus now is pretty much trading in the futures market. It's an ever-growing process of consistently just tailoring my performance to the results that I want. And I'm also implementing software for a huge food production company here in Chelsea, Massachusetts. So I'm helping them implement software and get them organized, similar to what I did with Perseverance, but times 10, because we have 14 to 15 team members right now working all together on different departments and tying it all together into one big software platform. And I'm also getting into acting. So I've been modeling since I think 2014, 2015. And that was fun, but very competitive and very difficult to break into. And so I've done a few big fashion shows and I modeled for them. But you know how it is. The pay isn't regular. Somebody put me on. It was my girlfriend was like, dude, you need to find an agency. And so I applied to a bunch of agencies. I found a PMTM agency, which is out in Ohio. And they told me, dude, you'd be great if you just do commercial acting. And so I got into commercial acting. And then from there, I was able to partner up with another agency, NTA agency at the current time. And they want me to get me into theatrical and TV and film work. So far, so good. Just got hooked up with them, doing auditions. And what's funny, acting is like trading. And trading is like acting. It's a performance-based career. Like, you have to perform day in and day out. So I'm a big buff when it comes to personal development, when it comes to speaking and strategies and business strategies. You realize that a lot of things are very similar, at least from my experience, because aviation was very similar to trading, and then trading was very similar to acting. And I'm like, isn't that funny? I seem to find myself in careers that encourage performance. So
Yeah.
for some people, it's stressful, but for me, I don't mind it. I think it's good, and it's very rewarding when you start to find success in it.
Would you say that at the core there's some unifying principle?
Yeah.
This tell me more about. Is there a purpose? Is there something driving you specifically? Do you think that these interests will unite and intersect more, or what really, if you look forward in your life, is keeping you all together along these various paths, which are all performance driven and interesting and exciting?
Yeah, I think it's always, for me, it's, I don't like to stay in one place too much. I don't like to sit still. For me, it's always like, where can I develop better? And so it's always that question of how can I get better? And so with these things that I'm involved in, it always requires that constant self reflection. And it just requires you to think more outside the box and meet people and learn from others to be able to take some of those things and apply it to yourself to become what you think is good enough for yourself. Because it's an individual sport. It's like when I used to compete for pistol shooting. I used to do the United States Junior Olympic pistol team. Was representing Massachusetts. And it's like when you put everyone on the firing line, Some people have different guns, but most of the time the guns are the same. A lot of the Olympians shoot Steyrs and Pardinis. If you're a shooter, you know what those guns are. And they have different gadgets on them. Some have weights on them, some have like different sights on it, some have different grips because each grip is ergonomic to shape your hand so it's comfortable and stable there. And you can wear whatever you want. There's some regulations. You can't wear short shorts. You can't wear like military cargo pants. You just have to wear pants, slacks, or in a polo. Some people wear t-shirts. Some people wear long sleeves. Some people will even wear button downs, but a lot of athletes like to stay comfortable when they're shooting. So it's like you have all these different things, but at the end of the day, what matters the most is your result. So what's going to separate you from the guy in 100th place or 60th place or 10th place to the guy in first place, second place, third place, right? It's just fractions of scores when you start to compete at that level. And despite everyone kind of shooting the same, there is a separating factor there. And so that's where the magic happens. If you can figure out what's that separating factor from the champion to the just normal athlete, then you start to get closer to that championship performance level. And so taking that skill set and applying it to business, trading, and acting, I don't know. It's just what I like. It's just what I do. I just enjoy that self questioning, that trying to figure out what it is. And yeah, I like stability. That's why I have a day job of software implementation. But we all need stability. We got to pay the bills. But then there's always that, let me see if I could do more. I want to be able to do more. Because I think it's perfectly normal for entrepreneurs to start off having a 9 to 5 because it pays your bills. It helps with your overhead costs for the time being. But once you have that momentum, once you have that strive, once you're like, okay, I just found my groove, you just start working that groove. And then you can start to think about either letting go of your job, start working part-time. Or people have sometimes, like in my case, some people have really great managers, and those managers are really flexible with their schedules. Let's say you need a week or two off to work on something, they'll give you that, you know? So it's that whole thing and just figuring out what's your place in life. And for me, you talked about drive. What's your biggest drive? For me, my drive was just being sick and tired of being in the same place and being yelled at and not being good in certain people's eyes, even though in my eyes, I'm like, I have a good gut feeling about it. But there's things in life that are telling you got to make a decision. It's either now or never. And so for me, I always
Go
work
into
out.
that a little bit more too.
Yeah.
Were there particular times that you have in your life that were turning points? Some things people said, relationships, bosses that formed that in you where you said, I have to activate, I have to be on. That's the term that comes to my mind and I resonate with you in that, where some people, let's say they're in their normal life, they're okay with being off a majority of their day. And by off, I just mean consuming some just, basic content, not really using their brain, not really using their capacity. They're just okay with just relaxing. But it seems like something like yourself doesn't really accept that. You're somebody who likes to be on as much as you can.
Yeah, definitely. As much as I can. It's so true. It's funny because when I watch movies, I don't watch movies just to watch movies. I watch movies to study the actors, to study the plot, to study the storyline. And I'm like, some people you look at some people and they're like, oh, they're just blankly staring at a TV show or movie. And I'm like, that's fine. But for me, I'm the annoying watcher. I just watch in silence and I'm like sitting there with big eyes. I'm like, wow, no wonder this is an Academy Award winner. Look at that. Yeah, dude, like throughout life, my parents are pretty strict, including my father. And my father was always just never happy, never satisfied with anything. And so that was a big motivation for me. When you come home as a kid and you do a project or you achieve something or you get your pilot's license and you're like, Dad, look at this stuff. Like, isn't this sick? And it's like at the end of the day, what does this mean? What does this mean? And it's like, it's crushing when you're like, damn. So I think that subconsciously, that's what was like, okay, it's not enough. I got to keep going as a kid. And then, and as an adult, as you keep going, people are going to congratulate you and say, wow, you did such a good job. But at the end of the day, either way, if you come home, that's okay, but you can do better. And so, yeah, that's the huge driver for me. And as we get older, all friends pass away, family members pass away, our friends' family members pass away, and we have to be there and support them. And you start to realize, man, some people don't make it to the age of 20. Some people don't make it to the age of 30. Some people don't make it to the age of 50 or 60. And so that's what life can be shortened in a flash of in an instant. For example, my girlfriend went through a recent passing away of her mother. And so she was in her early 50s. Nobody expected it. Nobody seen anything coming. There was nothing terminally ill about her. There was no issues, no health records that would reflect that, oh, she's not going to make it for a long time. Nothing. It was an absolute surprise. And at 50, right? Everyone assumes that, oh, 65, retirement age, 70, we're all, that's 50, bro. You think you have all the time in the world to do something? Sometimes you don't. You just don't know what's going to happen because you can have a cardiac arrest, you can have a stroke, you can have an aneurysm, anything. And that's not to scare people or be in a fear because a lot of that stuff, I went through a moment where it was put me in a place of fear. I'm afraid to touch technology. I don't want Wi-Fi signals next to my head. I don't want to be next to a telephone pole. I don't know what's going to happen. But at the end of the day, you just got to let go and let God. I had a mentor taught me that phrase is that you just got to let go and let God. That's it. And if you work out of that, and people who are watching this, you may not be spiritual, but you just got to let go and let the universe do its thing at the end of the day. That's just what it is. You have all these atoms and molecules running through your body. You just got to let them do what they got to do. And whatever happens to you happens. So what you need to do is just, how are you going to handle that? How are you going to handle it? It's just like, how are you going to react to those things that are brought on to you? Because it's not your fault. It's just like a car accident. You could be driving, you could be the best driver in the world. You could be the safest, and all of a sudden, you could be coming home from a family gathering at midnight, and then all of a sudden, a drunk driver T-bones you. And then what? You just have to understand how you are willing to react to the things that happen to you. And that comes through just personal self-development, constant. Again, it comes back to self-development and figuring out who you are, what your place in this world is. And if you follow stoicism, then stoicism leads you into that mindset of, it's just life. We're all part of this force, and we just got to make use of it. We are who we are. We just got to make use of it. Just be a good person. Just love people as best as you can. And some people don't know how to love. Some people don't believe in religion or spirituality, but it's just the base fundamental of human existence. That's what it is. We are part of the source, and there is a purpose for us to be part of it. And so we just got to just work at it and make use of it. Yeah. Long story short, it's people telling you, hey, you're not enough. That's what got me to consistently figuring out what I need to do, what do I like to do, and how do I make myself as best as I can be. I'm not a competitive person too much. When I hear the word compete, I cringe, but I do like to outperform myself. And that's the only thing that matters. As long as you're constantly working on outperforming yourself, you're headed in the right direction.
Let's look at from a stimulus response perspective. Do you
Yeah.
think that drive has changed in any way? And what I mean is, at some point, when you hear you're not enough, or somebody says something that makes you think that,
Yeah.
was there is the response still the same? Is there and what was it in the beginning? Was it anger that drove you to try and do different things and to be great at what you're doing? Was it, the desire to prove them wrong? Was it you needed to prove to yourself in the beginning? And how has that changed, if it has changed at all?
Yeah, it's initially it was kind of confusion. I was like, why? I thought I'm doing all these things really well. Why is this not enough? What's going on here? Because I gave it my all. I got the good grade to school. I did well in this project. Why is it not enough? And it's that questioning that led me to start to find people, interviews, people who went through the same thing as me. That's the power of the internet. You find that you're not alone in this world, these issues. And when you start to learn how people navigated through that confusion, then it becomes clear that, oh, it's not necessarily my problem. It could be their problems. It could be their problem because it's all objective. How you perform is objective. And they could be, you just think about it, like it depends on how that criticism was delivered. If it was a place out of love and leadership, then yes, of course. That's called constructive criticism. We need to be able to learn how to take constructive criticism because that's going to make us so much better. But with constructive criticism, there needs to be a mutual understanding and there needs to be a form of compadre to it. Like you need to be that person, you have to understand that person is for you and is with you, is on the same team, trying to get you to the next level. And that is awesome. And we have a lot of those examples like Kobe, LeBron, Tom Brady, a lot of these professional athletes who are those kind of people. Now, you also have the other side of the coin where it may be constructive criticism for them, but it's not coming out that way. It's coming out hater energy. They say, hey, you're not good enough. But there's no constructive criticism to it. How? Why am I not good enough? What makes it so? And that's hater energy. Usually in that case, you have to realize that, okay, they're probably putting their insecurities off on me because I did something that they didn't do that makes them feel uncomfortable. Therefore, to cope with that lack, they say, I could do that. That's not anything. That's whatever. So you have to learn to delineate between constructive criticism and the people who are genuinely saying it in a not loving way, just pretty much being a hater. And there's really no in between. And I guess there could be in between. If friends just say a comment or a snark, it just is what it is. But again, overall, as I got older, you just learn through communication with various different people what is true criticism and feedback and what is true hate. And so you have to decide which one is that, and you choose who you want to listen to, and you choose which one you want to ignore. Obviously, you want to ignore the hate and the criticism, and you want to accept the feedback and the critique. So when you learn to basically differentiate between those two, that puts you in a really good spot to have selective hearing, I like to say. So, yeah.
That aligns with something that I've experienced recently, personally. We all grow and develop. Is at some point in my life earlier, it was the desire to prove the person wrong,
Yeah.
very strong.
Yeah.
And now, after you learn, I would say, how to be very effective at what you're doing, you realize that none of that matters. And it's the process of emotionalizing it is what can become fuel, or it can become distraction.
Yeah.
And if you just realize that the actions produce the results, you said that earlier, the results are what matters most.
Yeah.
If you realize that by thinking about, worrying about, mentally having conversations and with yourself, these mental gymnastics that we have to prevent or overcome our emotionalizations, you realize that entire chain of processes is totally unnecessary and unimportant.
Right.
Because it's almost the way is, what is the quote? The best way to win is without fighting.
Yeah.
I don't believe that's in every situation, but if you can almost begin to just say, yeah, sure, you're right, but
My brother
I'm
would
gonna
disagree.
go ahead and keep doing my actions.
Yeah,
Because
100%.
I know that if I do the actions, whatever you say will be less true over time.
Yes.
You're 100% right. Like, I have to not care about it. I
Yeah.
can accept it and receive it and go, that's great. I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to go back to the actions, because the actions are what produces everything.
100%. 100%. Yeah, you notice that in life, people will try to drag you in 100 different ways and try to pull you in different directions. But you got to stick to what you think is good and what you set out to plan. Because we noticed that a lot of people set New Year's resolutions, New Year's goals, and then you start to find out that, oh, this new app came out, I want to go try it. Or this new tactic came out, I'm so tempted to try it. or this new shiny object is interesting me. Maybe I should put this on hold and go try it out. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it's the actions. As long as you thought of the actions that you need to do and then you start executing on that action, then that's what you have to do. And that's what's going to move the needle forward for you, because it's all different for people. And 100%, it's best to win without fighting. I'm trying to teach my little brother that. He's not so little anymore. He's 19, but he's a fighter. He's just a fighter. He likes to throw hands at everyone. And when you put him when he has his back to the wall, he just starts just swinging at people. And I always tell him, I said, hey, Andrew, when people piss you off, just turn the other cheek. Yeah, he said, no, F that. I'm not doing any of that nonsense. I'm fighting. You looking like you want to get smacked, so I'm fighting you. And I'm like, okay, 19, I get it. When you're 19, just haven't we all been there? We all want to fight and fight it out, and that's the best way to do. Yeah, you're a man. Just give them a sock to the face. But is that truly the answer? If they're just calling you names, or they're teasing you, or they're irritating you, not haven't physically engaged with you yet, but you take that first swing to knock them out, who does that make? Who puts who in the wrong? It's what happens now.
I
But
think
100%, when you have to defend yourself, obviously defend yourself. If someone's taking jabs at you, you got to jab back. But you also have to have a conscious of when to pull back. Don't beat the guy to bits, but just know when to back off. And hey, did you learn your lesson? Okay, back off. But in life, in modern life especially, it's very rare to encounter a situation where you really need to go fight fist to cuff with somebody. It's really just like if somebody says anything at you, or somebody like really says something hurtful or says something wrong, it's obviously, you have the power to knock him out or get him into a fight. But I think it makes you much more powerful if you learn how to turn the other cheek and say, you know what? You have a good day. You have a good one. And just walk away. And so I think walking away is underrated power,
tell me why you think that.
because it's just like, you have the ability to really to hurt somebody, but walking away is just, you start to realize what the consequences are going to be. And that usually comes through experience. Like when you're young and you're getting into a fight, like the other person cannot take it so well as you thought it would. Like I had a situation where I was typical schoolyard fight. Somebody was calling out my mom, and all my friends were like, dude, go fight, man. Go fight, dude. You calling out your mom. Are you going to take that? Naturally, I was like, hell no. So I guess I'll go fight. And at the time, I was learning martial arts. So I had some tricks up my sleeve. I was ready. And yeah, this kid was started to swing on me, started to jump on me, started to elbow me, and I said, no way. So threw him off. He was a more heavier set kid, so it was a little difficult there. But after a few tussles and wrestling on the ground, I finally grabbed him by the lapels and headbutt him like twice or three times, and his mouth started bleeding, and he saw the blood running down, and he got into a panic. And so we broke up the fight. Everyone was like, oh, wow. Later that day, I get a phone call from a Boston police detective. And as a kid, I was like, oh my God. They called out my name. They knew who I was. They knew who I fought with. And they basically told me a warning. They said, hey, you need to stay as far away from that kid. You cannot be with this kid right now. Stay as far away. And I don't want to have to call you guys again or send you to jail, because what this is considered is assault on battery. And I was like, oh, okay. Did not know. From that point on, I think it's just a modern society thing. You just got to be aware of the consequences, because sometimes, honestly, fighting isn't really the answer. It's really just getting yourself together and just walking away, because that would be a better outcome than having to go to court, to jail, to the police,
Yeah.
to
Waste
to
of time.
complete waste of time. And sometimes it may not even be police. It could be, if you're in the streets, it could be their cousins, their brothers, their fathers. You don't know who's going to come after you, right? So Yeah, you just have to, it's the consequences that are much more scarier and can affect your life than the actual situation that, oh, let's have a gentleman fight. These days, I don't think there's such thing as a gentleman fight. Everyone goes to the police and reports a crime. It's not going to be a good look for you if you decide to start fighting your way out of situations.
Yeah, and I think there's a few principles underlining this that are interesting. I've always thought personally that the greatest sign of ability is to not need to prove it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I think what we're getting at here, to connect it to some of the dots, connect it to some of the conversation around your current life, where you're at, and really the outcome or the message of this podcast here together is it's about a few things. And so you have the firm Perseverance. It's a perseverance marketing firm, or what is it?
Yep.
Perseverance, durability are all needed for you to develop yourself along your journey. But another one is accurate assessment of risk. And
Yeah.
so most people, what we really just talked about is we've spanned the gamut from everyday things that occur in life that are
Mhm.
challenges and risks that we as entrepreneurs or people who are trying to create value in the world take. And our weighing of the consequences versus the rewards makes it so that we're the kind of people who can do these things. But then if we go all the way down to these fighting examples, this is
Mhm.
all the way down to legitimate, potentially life or death situations.
Yeah.
I think what happens along the way is a lot of people, if they do not choose to take actions to start the business or take the risks in their life, it likely comes down from this misperception of this spectrum of what real risk and consequences are in life. And I think we talked about that stimulus response outcome. So if somebody says something to you, to go all the way back to, let's say, the person who said you're not good enough, the person who said that, or made you feel that way, or we've all had those kind of people in life. There's a stimulus, and the response when we're going through that journey, the 5 years, the 10 years, the whatever decades that it takes to develop ourselves and improve and grow, we think that the stimulus response is a ending. It is a cycle in and of itself. We're constantly going from that person said something to you doing the action, or you feeling good or motivated and you doing the action. But in reality, the true outcome that you can have from all those stimuli is to develop durability and perseverance.
Yeah.
Because once you develop durability and perseverance, it doesn't matter if somebody says something that's really good about you, something that's really negative about you, something that someone really tries to. A lot of famous people get life and death kind of threats, and they just say, yep, that's the hazard of the job. They have good security teams and things like that. But what is that corporate? It's durability and it's perseverance. So why did you name your firm Perseverance, and what's your take on that analysis there?
It's not my firm. It's Antoine Stewart's firm.
Okay,
Gotta give
okay.
credit where credit is due. So
Mm,
shout out to Antoine. Yeah, no, perseverance, man. That's just what it is. It's to keeping on going despite difficulties. You gotta keep moving, keep on swimming. Like Finding Nemo, like Dory would always say, just keep swimming. You just gotta keep swimming. That's perseverance at the end of the day. That's the definition. As kids, when Disney movies were at their pinnacle in those days, they taught you all those values: perseverance, love, how to love one another. This is what it is. You always see in Disney movies the hero had some kind of a problem, but then at the end of the movie, they've conquered that problem and they become heroes. And that's Disney. And that's perseverance at the end of the day. Perseverance is just, against all odds, you just got to keep going on what you believe is right and what you want your goals to be. And I love that name. And because of that perseverance name, I was inspired to create Perseverance Managing Futures off of Antoine's Perseverance marketing firm. And Managing Futures is not an official LLC or anything yet, but I'm gauging on where it's going because I like the name Perseverance Managing Futures. Because when we're trading futures, we're essentially managing a lot of things. We're managing risk, we're managing our futures, and we're managing the actual futures markets. I thought it's just a cool play on words. And so, yeah, I think the word perseverance is just, it sticks. For me, it sticks a lot because everywhere I see perseverance, I'm like, I text Antoine, I'm like, yo, check this out. The perseverance is everywhere. So, yeah, despite all odds, you just got to keep going. And yeah, that's essentially what perseverance is. That's
are
it.
there any risks in your life that
Yeah, I sometimes I wish I would have maybe. sucked it up and went to Naval Academy and not being so caught up in my younger, lustful party ways. I wish I had went to the Naval Academy, and who knows where that would have brought me. My cat's meowing, trying to get at the door. Excuse me, Markers. Yeah, Naval Academy. Shoot, who knows where that would have taken me? I don't know, because again, my goal was to be a fighter pilot, and depending on where that, if I would have taken that Naval Academy path, would I have become a fighter pilot? Where would my life be right now if I had taken that path? So I'm still in that mental limbo, like, man, what if I took that? I don't know if it's a regret, but it could be a learning lesson. I have a lot of friends who are in the military, and I share that kind of feeling with them. And they're like, dude, you could do Air National Guard. They still get pilots. They still want pilots. If you have flight time, that's better than nothing. The cutoff age to be a fighter pilot in the military is 32 or something like that. At 28, clock is ticking though. You have to decide on, again, it's a decision. Well, the door's still open. Do I still want to walk through it?
Yeah.
Uh,
You started that root question. If you're alive, you can do something. So are you going to do something or are you not?
yeah,
Often we say, am I going to do this? Or am I going to do that? Or am I going to do this thing? Or should I try that thing? It's, are you going to do something to improve your life or not? There's
exactly.
a time where most people, they get to a point where that answer is no.
Yeah.
They say, no, I'm actually not going to change. One thing that I think would be interesting to get your thoughts about as well, and what I've been trying to understand from you is, and you mentioned the potential about going back and being the fighter pilot. The term that comes up that you said there is managing futures. When we're looking back at the past and the risks that we could take, we didn't take, you're doing what your firm would do, managing futures. You're trying to see and think that if I would have done that, my life would be like this. But I think that's difficult. You would probably agree with. We can never stay in that battle forever. But what comes up to me then, because I've perhaps had similar things, is when we see people who end up being very successful, our brain will try to simplify it as much as possible. So our brain will say, this person, so they studied this, they went and focused on that, they got really into it, and they created this company, and all of a sudden they were a huge success. But
Yeah.
what we don't see, and what underlies this, and I've experienced this, is processing of emotions and desires is one of the strongest supporters or derailers of your progress towards a specific thing. So, for
Yeah.
example, that desire that maybe I should have gone, maybe I should still go back and do that, or maybe I should have stayed with that person, or tried to keep that relationship together, or all these kind of things. These things are not. These things occur along the journey, and we have to face them and process them, or else they'll continue to pull energy away from what that is. So, to bring this all to a culmination, yeah, I asked earlier about is there a unifying goal underlying the actions that you're taking in life, that if you look back, let's say 70 years from now, 80 years from now, you're almost ready to pass away and you're looking back
Yeah.
at your life, what is the purpose that you would have lived here that would make your life fully worth it to you?
Oh, wow, that's awesome. I love that. I've thought about that actually. And it was at the tip of my tongue. It's being, it's, it's being like straightforward there's a better word for that. And it was like at the tip of my tongue, but it's just being concrete with the decisions that I've made. Just being concrete. Just made a decision. That's awesome. I made a decision. I enjoyed the life I lived. I 100% enjoyed it because I met a lot of people. I learned a lot of things. My biggest thing when I was young, I was like, I want to go to the biggest parties. I want to go and be around women. I wanted to have that experience. It's like when we watched the movie Project X, we were like, oh, okay, this is awesome. And by the grace of God, I was able to experience that at a young age. At a young age, and I'm like, oh my God, that is awesome. I had a lot of things going for me at a young age. I was able to really kickstart myself of what people would experience in their 20s. I was already experiencing it in my 18s, 19s. So, like I had my own car. I was able to go where the hell I wanted to. Gas money wasn't an issue. I had a good valet job. I knew how to save money. I was driving different types of cars. I was flying. I was shooting. I was competing. I was socializing. All those things just, it makes me happy. Sure, there may have been other things that I may have left aside, but at the end of the day, we have 12 hours in a day. People say 24, but you sleep 8 hours, so it's okay. 12 hours. And basically, that's just, yeah, it's just being comfortable with the decisions that I've made. That's, well, they may not always have been comfortable decisions, but they were decisions anyway. And you just have to be content with it. Like I made this decision. That is what I did at the time, and that's what got me to where I am today. And I don't regret it at all. I don't regret it at all. Still learning, I'm still growing, and there's gonna be more challenges coming along the way anyway. So might as well just give it all you got right now and F it. Just do it. Whatever your heart desires at this current time, just do it and go for it. Don't You can have a sense of, you can take a calculated risk. You can do your calculations, right? Just do the calculations, but then when you start to do too much, you start to go into an analysis paralysis. And analysis paralysis will stop you. And it's gonna make you sit and wonder. But maybe you need that analysis paralysis at the time. Sit with it, ponder it, do your daily tasks while thinking about that thing. And eventually the answer will come to you. In the Bible, there's a passage that says, ask and you'll get your answer. Knock and it will be opened for you. So ask. If you ask, as long as you ask things, the answer will be given to you. As long as you knock on doors, those doors will open or close for you, just as what it is. Whoever's on the other side is going to do that. So just don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to knock. And don't forget to give back along the way too, because if you give back, if it's just small, if it's your time or if it's money, well, you're also going to get some things in return as well. But the power in that is, as long as you give without the expectation of return. And that's the hard part, because you always want to, oh, I'm going to expect somewhere down the line I might get something back. Let go of that and just say, I'm just going to give it. And it's okay. If my paycheck I'll make that back in a paycheck. It's okay. Just take it. It's fine. And yeah, it's just being, yeah, just making the decisions that I've made, I think was good. And at the time, it was a good decision. And yeah, I'm here now. So if we can still build, we can still continue to grow, and we take our experiences from the past and we just carry it forward as a learning lesson for things that we want to do. And that's what life is. If we don't learn from our mistakes, we're deemed to consistently repeat them. So we're going to keep getting that same lesson over and over again until we finally say, I've learned my lesson. I won't do this or that anymore.
Two things arise. One is there's billions of paths to a single destination. You could be born anywhere with anything or nothing. We're all going to the same destination. There's billions of paths to the same destination. You're all going to pass away. We're all going to pass away. But did you ever learn about frame control during your time as an actor?
Frame control from, depends. Is it the perspective of what you want people to see or the perspective of who you see your character as?
Frame control from the psychological standpoint. But I think both of what you just said are encapsulated in that. And so
Yeah.
frame control is, so let's go back to the person who said, okay, you're not good enough.
Yeah.
As we're young, it's easy for our frame, which is our control of our reality, let's call it, our grasp on what is real and the basis of our confidence and our self-representation of ourselves in our minds. If we accept what that person said, we are accepting their frame and they're breaking our frames. That's called frame control. Is it somebody, and it's used in high leverage negotiation situations and whatnot. That's why in negotiation, often you should try to talk less, because you don't want to mess up. You don't want to break your frame. You don't want someone else to break your frame. It happens in relationships. It happens in business. If you're more in the dating phase of life, different women or men They'll try to test you with different things to get you to break that frame. So for
Yeah.
some people are, I'm the kind of person, I only like to work. And then you go hang out with your friends and they try to break your frame and go, hey, you like to have fun. And then either that frame is you're going to persist with your frame or it's going to be broken. But
Yeah.
the point of what I'm getting at here is if we're accepting the frame of what people put on us, we're probably going to be in a bad spot just in general.
Right.
And so let's go to that person again, just because I think it's so powerful and relevant for people to just focus on. 'Cause there's a lot of people who have felt those situations before, and maybe they're feeling it constantly. They feel like they're not good enough. They feel like they're not good enough to go try the thing or develop themselves in the skill. They're accepting a frame from somebody or something, probably subconsciously, that's keeping them
Mm,
trapped. Instead of, to the next part, questioning what value does that person have? What basis does that person have to be a judge of your character, your ability, your potential, right? So there's a questioning part of not being controlled in your frame, but there's also a reframe, and the reframe is to connect with what you were talking about of your goal in life.
mm,
Is acceptance of your choices a place you can reach now? Because you're saying the question was, you're looking back on your life, you're 80 years down the road, you're on your deathbed, you're looking back at your life, and you said one of the biggest things that you have acceptance of your choices.
mm.
Is that a place that you could reach now? Do you think that there's things that you have that are keeping you in a place, but you could just begin to accept your choices and that can help you move forward and be more successful? And then I want to take another part so we can bring it fully to a head here. And the question is, would that be enough for you? Now that's a complete reframe on the you're not good enough.
Yeah.
To anybody and everything. Is that good enough for you? Would that ultimate thing that you would go out to achieve, would that be enough for you? Because I found that's been powerful for me lately, is
Yeah.
realizing like, if I am here in life, other people can go, that's great, that's fantastic. But is that enough for me? And once you just realize, because that's what's going to drive you no matter what, is when you just flip the whole conversation. It's, look, yeah, okay, I'm not enough for your organization. I'm going to crush your organization. I'm going to crush whatever you're doing in life. I'm going to crush it because what
Yeah.
you're saying is so unimportant. What you are achieving is not enough for me. That's a totally different place of power. So there's a few things I just threw at you there, but
That's true. Yeah, I guess we'll have to take a step back. So before I get into that, so am I comfortable with the decisions that I've made? It's as long as I'm still living. No, I'm not like I'm comfortable, like I'm confident in what I did is it is what it is. It's in the past, but I'm also hopeful of the future still. If I want to make something up, if I want to do something daring still, I'm still gonna do it. For example, when it came to flying, like I didn't become a fighter pilot, not yet at least.
hmm,
But maybe down the line, what's gonna happen was there's a few avenues you could go for that. I can either continue down the general aviation route, fly little Cessnas, get my hours there, then transition to my instrument rating, then transition to a commercial pilot's rating, and then commercial to a twin engine, commercial to a seaplane, so I could land on the water. That's the beauty of aviation. I don't have to be restricted to the notion of, oh my goodness, I did not become a fighter pilot, so my life is over. No, there's other ways you can do that. But what I realize is, oh, now if I want to fly, I need to make money, right? And to be able to afford my flight lessons, I have to make cash because flight lessons require some payment. It's like when you rent an airplane, you got to pay. And also got to pay for the instructor's time. What do you have to do? I got into entrepreneurship, I got into business, I found myself a job. Let me save up some money the best as I can while handling my bills and let me open you don't have to open an account, but just organize a sum of money to where you specify that, okay, $20,000 is going to go to strictly aviation stuff. Okay. And so in life, if you really want to achieve something, but it requires money, you have to know how to get yourself out of debt, get some cash flow, and save some money for a budget on a particular thing you want to do. So it's not saving just to save. A lot of people are like, I don't believe in saving. But yeah, you should, how else are you going to accumulate some cash? You have to save, but for the goal of setting a budget for something you want to take that budget and invest it into something, right? So that's the switch in the logic there. So you save to create a budget, to take that budget to invest into something. So as I do that, I'll be getting back on the saddle of flying airplanes, of building my aviation. I guess it won't be a career at that point. It'll just be perhaps a hobby initially. But once you get past a certificate like your commercial pilot certificate, that legally allows you to get paid to fly. So now I can fly for hire. And what can I do at this point? I could fly like cargo. I could fly rescue cats from like New Jersey to Boston or Boston to Florida. Like all these, the world starts to open up like, oh, I can accumulate hours by doing volunteer flights, charity flights. I can also get paid to fly people in my network. So there's still ways to make up for the things that you may have missed in the past. There's still room to grow. As long as you're living, as long as you're breathing, you can still be great. And that's the beauty of it. And look at John Travolta. He's an actor, right? Look what he's flying. He's flying his own jumbo jets. Dude, it's my inspiration right there. Dude, John Travolta is a freaking G. Sure, he looked a little corny dancing in musicals, but that got him to the success where he is. He was in Pulp Fiction. That's a badass movie, right? He took all of that. Oh, he's flying. He has a house in Florida that's like literally an airport amongst another large community there. That's awesome. Look at Tom Cruise. He's not an official fighter pilot, but he acted as a fighter pilot, but he took fighter pilot training to be able to simulate some of those same characteristics of what those G-forces look like in an aircraft. He's doing his own stunts. At the end of the day, there's so many things that you don't have to just be a fighter pilot to achieve a goal. You can be a successful business person, have enough money to buy yourself a jet, and just find an instructor who's willing to teach you how to fly in that jet, and boom, you're now flying a jet around. I was looking online. There's a website where people sell airplanes as if you're buying real estate or something like that, like a Zillow for airplanes. And I look online. There was a freaking F-16 jet being sold for $10 million. Like, hello. So you can still fly these things. And that's my hope. And that's like a good hope to have. It's a good motivation to have. Okay. As long as I continue to work on myself and if you don't make 10 million in your lifetime, okay. If you don't make 20 million in your lifetime, okay. But at least to give something for you to strive for, because getting that kind of money in this day and age may not be super easy, but it's doable because there's a lot of examples out there and there's a lot of people who are sharing their stories on how they got there. And as long as you could take some of that information away and bring it into your own life, that gives you a purpose. That gives you a reason for keeping on going. And that gives you a purpose on just waking up and getting to the day and getting your goals of achieving those things to get you to that financial goal, to be able to ultimately get you to the goal of flying jets. Now that's like a big, that was just like on the lack of the jet part thing scenario, right? Now, you mentioned the next question on that was people try to pull you from your frame.
Yeah,
And
because what I was getting at here is that the question is, would that be enough for you? And what you just detailed to me, and from our initial conversation, I
yeah,
remember I asked you about purpose, and you were still trying to figure it out. And that is, if you're working on it, that is what you need to be doing. It's extremely powerful.
yeah,
So, for
yeah,
example, over the last couple of weeks, I've been really trying to dig deeper on my purpose. I feel like for a couple of years, I really lost my deep sense of purpose, and a lot of people can resonate with this. My wife and I had a kid, and all of a sudden, she's not working anymore. She's taking full care of the kid. And, all right, now you have
yeah,
to cover everything, and everyone goes through these changes in life, and these changes cause us to. For me, I just was laser focused on providing, which is a fundamental aspect of the masculine character. When you lose that sense of purpose just to do the thing and to make money, your life is affected, especially as us as men who
Yeah.
are consumed. As I'm getting it was what you're sharing there. Your answer to the question is more about you being super excited about and having hope for the future and the things that you
Yeah.
can do. And I think that's really the answer in and of itself in many ways is you don't need to constantly fret and worry about what the past was because the
Yeah.
future is more exciting.
Right.
The question about would that be enough for you is just one that you can test your own purpose against. And
Mm.
so what you just said there, okay, maybe I don't make the 10 million. But do you have to put maybe you don't. Maybe right? That's a level. But what if it became something that you were just absolutely focused on? It's I'm going to have it versus accepting and saying, maybe I don't. And again, maybe I don't is an okay place, but is it the most powerful place that you want to stay at for what you're looking at moving forward? It's more like just allow yourself to be consumed by your passions. Because when you're talking about those things, your brain goes in a totally different level. You're moving faster, you're thinking faster, you're feeling better, your emotions come up. Like maybe you should just fill your vision for the future and that definition of your purpose of something that truly lights you up, makes you so freaking exciting. And it includes getting the jet. But
Yeah.
you're okay if you don't get it. You're okay if something happens along the way and you get hurt and you can't do it or whatever. You're okay with it, but you're not going to accept a future where in your control that thing got away from you.
Yes, exactly. It's the journey, not the destination. You just gotta like the journey, and you have to be comfortable with sometimes it may not happen. Sometimes other things may happen. A a certain condition may happen. A life event may happen that requires a lot of financial, uh, a lot of a lot of finances it requires, whether it's a marriage or a child's birth and putting them through school or setting aside some of the things that you wanted to do and it required some money, but those things that just came up, whether it's building a family, taking care of a loved one, it's just you have to be it gets tough. It gets tough because you have to ask, is my purpose really God's will, or is it just my purpose? And so those are the questions that I seem to sometimes wonder. And I'm like, if things don't work out, is it truly not meant for me? Or is it not meant for me now? Or am I totally getting this concept wrong and
Yeah.
the universe has a completely
And
different
I
for me?
just don't believe in those things. Not that I don't believe in God, but I just don't believe that if I'm or you or anybody is
Yeah.
saying, I'm gonna build something that's gonna make the world better, that
Yeah.
excites people, that brings joy, what God is gonna say no? There's some
Bro.
famous Indian sayings that are coming to mind, and I don't remember them specifically, but it basically is if God is not aligned with me serving other people, then that is no God, right?
Yeah.
And if God is not aligned with you being an extremely happy person and creating businesses and things that are going to help people flourish, I don't know if we're talking about the most benevolent creator in the universe. We're probably thinking about some mysticism, which is preventing
Yes.
us. And again, that emotionalization, the fighting in between ourselves for no reason other than we're just not 100% committed to the thing that we really want. And because maybe we just are not allowing ourselves to believe that we can or should have it. And we're taking the past of that thing happening. You're worried something's going to happen in the future. If you want to fly jets, man, fly that
Yeah.
jet.
I love that.
Be
I
uncompromising.
that is
Be
so true.
uncompromising.
Because if you have that image, you have that image for a reason. And if you got so close to it that you could taste it, it got so close to you that you could taste it for a reason so that you can still be thirsty for it and keep going for it.
And
I love
now you're
I love
understanding my question.
Yeah.
Would this be enough for you? If
Yeah.
you got so close, there's a few parts of this.
Yeah.
If you started living the first part is you start living your life right now as if you 100% could have it.
Yeah.
Okay. Would that be enough for you? If you live the rest of your life, if in that passion and desire for that you were going towards this goal and that you could have it, that's
Yeah.
enough for most people. But
Yeah.
then, like the next step is like, would it be enough for you if you only got to the point where you're doing your training flights and you never passed out of training, but you got to train a lot? Would that be enough for you? And then, so like, that's really the question of would that be enough for you? Because I meet people who are much older than me and I hear it's very good to meet people who are older and successful and,
Yes.
because you're able to look at them and go, what decisions did you make in your life? What did you achieve? And you see how they feel in their lives. Maybe they're disenfranchised, they're not feeling the best or whatever. Maybe they're super happy. But then this guy sold a company and he's not done.
Yeah.
Isn't enough for him. And it raises your sights on what's possible or what you really is normal for you to accomplish. Like you should be just pushing that question. Is that enough for me?
Yeah.
Your life. You're the one living it.
Exactly. Yeah. No. Now that I'm thinking about it, it probably wouldn't be because I'm gonna keep going for more.
Okay.
It
Love
wouldn't
that
be.
fact.
Yeah. Because you can naturally keep going for more. We're like air. We always want to expand into the spaces. And if you give air, the entire sky is going to want to fill the entire sky. Yeah, it's just at the end of the day, what we limit ourselves on is our limit. Once we have a glass ceiling on something, that's all imaginary. That's all imaginary. Because there's really everything is limitless. There's really no boundaries. And I like that, yeah, because once you achieve, let's say you do achieve that and you got to that place of you achieved your goal. Is that enough? Are you done truly? No, because as long as you're living and breathing, you got more things to do. You got more discovery. You got more adventure to participate in. You got more challenges to solve. So, yeah, man, absolutely. Yeah. Never consent, never.
Life worthy of you,
Yes,
you know?
exactly. 100%. Yeah.
And let's improve it. Let's make it better.
That's a good way to look at that 100%. I love that.
We're human beings. We're all freaking great. We all have
Exactly.
so much power and so much capacity. So I
100%.
know you opened with that.
Yeah, we are just being alive as a little sperm cell that became a fully fledged human. That's already a crazy feat in itself. I think it's like one in like what's
Really,
70 million, 700
I
million,
think
something
yeah,
like
it's
that.
like I don't know.
It's a lot. I was at Body Worlds like maybe a year or two ago, and they literally had a wall of the probability of how special it is for us to be born. And they had this big giant wall filled with white rice. And they had this one red rice in the middle amongst all this other rice. And it said, "You are one out of many." And you see this big wall. And you're like, oh crap. Now you get that visual representation. You're like, dude, that's such a small probability of us to be born and we're here. So that's very special.
So you mentioned that in the beginning, you know, the everyone has this great capacity, and if they can just wake up, that sounds like a wake up moment.
Yeah.
What other wake up moments have you had in your life that have expanded your awareness of that potential and what you're looking at, like how it affected your life and your perception of yourself moving forward?
A big wake up call was seeing younger kids, like kids my age in college, like absolutely crushing it, like making six figures a month and stuff like that. And I was like, how? I'm like I have at the time I had $5,000, $10,000 saved up. Like, what the hell? And I worked so hard for that. What am I doing wrong? That was a big wake up call for me. And then another thing is a huge wake up call when I was in college and I was away. So I would live on campus, but every time I would come home, it almost seemed like my parents were aging every time I came home. So my parents aging was a huge wake up call for me. And that was a big motivator for me because I'm like, oh my goodness, like I have all these goals to retire them, to do all this and that, and to travel with them. And I don't want to miss out on that with them. So that was a big wake up call for me. I think that was like the biggest one that's still fueling me to this day because thank God they're still around, they're still here. And so I'm making the most of what I can to be with them. And so right now, like with my mom, I'm learning how to cook. I'm learning how to cook from her. I want to be able to cook my own nutritious food as she does. That's a big deal for me because I hate eating out. It's such a waste of money most of the time. And I also love natural homemade food. So learning from her has been so cool. It's tough because I gotta really pull the knowledge out of her because she does things so quickly. She in the kitchen, she's just whipping around. I'm like, yo, what are you doing? What is going on? So you have to slow down. I didn't know it was that crazy. And then you ask her, like, and she, oh, it's easy. You just do this, add water, boil it. It's easy. I'm like, all right, we need to run that back again. I'm trying to figure that out. Yeah, man, it's been a pleasure. That's just a big wake up call, especially seeing my girlfriend's mother pass away and attending the ceremonies of the wake, of the funeral, and seeing how she's handling it. And her mom was like my best friend. So that was a huge wake up call. Spend time with your parents. Spend time with your parents. Invest into that. Invest into those relationships you have with family because they're important. And thankfully, my mother is really good. She's a bright person. She's smart. She's awesome. And she's like the anchor in the entire family, honestly. So being with her, she's like a light. So being with her is really nice. I was fortunate enough to have her as a mom because she's just an awesome person to be around. I'm happy that she's my mother. So I'm a mama's boy. So seeing my parents aging, but then also recognizing that fact and actually taking advantage of their time here and seeing them every day. I love that. But also, that's just my drive. That's why I want to build my business for to be able to provide, for my family as well. Not just the family I'm gonna create, but also the family that has raised me. So, all of that. And then also, like, I was so freaking happy because I took my mother to Aruba twice. So she got to experience the Caribbean islands for her first time, and she absolutely loved it. And we connected with another person out in Aruba who was our Airbnb host. Turned out she was the wife of George McRae, who was like an international pop star back in the day. He did the song I Get Lifted, George McRae. He also wrote a song called, oh man, he wrote a lot of hit songs. I Get Lifted is like my favorite one because that guitar tune and I get lifted gets used as a sample in so many different songs in today's day and age. And he makes money off of those samples. If there's any artist that uses a sample without permission, he's getting sued. Those artists are getting sued right away. And this guy's a money man and he's living in Aruba and he's in his mid 70s now. And just seeing and just being like, wow, who would have thought that our Airbnb host was the wife of George McRae and they live in Aruba? What? My mom was stoked because obviously that was her era when all that stuff was popping off. And dude, it was just cool. It is just cool. Like when you work out of an open heart, when you work out of just love and just pure intention, a lot of things really align. So it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Yeah, that's a big wake up call for me. It's just my parents seeing them age and understanding that clock is ticking
For sure.
and you got to figure it out, buddy. So yeah,
Right.
that was my wake up call.
I can feel your emotion around those things. And
Yeah.
so as you're looking forward, I want to mention something to you. When you were talking about this becoming a pilot and flying and all these different ways that you could do it, I get the
Mhm.
sense that the words that come up are this will definitely happen. And
Yeah.
when you're so excited about something and
Yeah.
you're viewing it with all the power that you have and you're focused on it, you're carrying the energy of this will definitely happen. And that's something that you should be aware of, right? You should know that if you're focused on these things will definitely happen. So to follow that theme, I want to introduce a new little segment here called Call Your Shot.
Yeah.
So now imagine we were talking about the breakthrough or let's see the wake up moments looking back. Well,
Yep.
let's say this podcast right now is a magic wand and you're
Mm.
looking forward in your life and you can call your shot right now.
Yeah.
Like Babe Ruth,
Yeah.
he called his shot. He said left field or whatever it was. He hit that.
Yeah, exactly. You called all those shots. Yeah.
Call your shot. What is your upcoming breakthrough moment in the reality of your life, the things that you're working on? What's going to happen for you that's going to get you to that next level? And to close out, how can we support you? How can we engage with you and everything of that nature?
Yeah, I want to keep this show going because I definitely want to see where we call our shots. Where does the shot actually go? Yeah, I got a few things going on, man. A few shots I want to call. First shot is getting a successful audition for a TV film production and getting a full-time role on a TV show. That's the shot I'm calling, and that's what gets actors paid. I had a coach tell me, he says, you don't want to be in a movie right away. You want to get into a TV show that you are on for multiple episodes. that's what gets you paid. And that's when you become a full-time actor. And I was like, aha, there's the goal. Ding, ding. There's my shot. Let's go for it. And so him and I, we've been working for a bit on and off and stuff like that. But I'll be back with him on Monday for the next 4 weeks. We'll be practicing scenes together. But yeah, it's get on that show, multiple episodes, and make it happen. Like Steve Carell on The Office, crushing it. He was like the main there because of that TV show. He got on so many other movies. It was awesome. His career like just took off. So a lot of actors from The Office, their careers did very fairly well, and then they transitioned to opening their own businesses. So that's the first shot. Second shot is $10 million trading account. That goal is very special to me because when I look at my statistics of trading, I can consistently make 2-3% a month in the markets. And 2 to 3% on a $10 million account, that's 200-300K. So for me, 10 million is that number. And so I'm calling it that 10 million will happen and we'll be able to make a decent living off of just that portfolio. And yeah, and then the second shot, I think I feel like this is much more closer of a shot than I think it's around the same level as the acting one, but getting my own multifamily in Boston. Great market, lots of students here. If you get a multifamily in Boston, you'll be set for life. That is your retirement account right there. So multifamily in Boston, in a very good neighborhood, I would say either Jamaica Plain, Brighton, Allston area, Brookline area. Because it's right next to Boston College. It's right next to MIT, right next to Boston University, right next to Harvard. Yeah. And all the trains lead to there. Like kids don't need cars to go to school. Like it's the trains. They just use the dang trolleys. Get a unit, multifamily in Boston. That's going to set you up for life. Use that home equity line of credit to roll over and buy some more stuff. Use that, buy more things. That's the goal right there. Those are my shots. I'm calling out those bad boys right here, right now.
Phenomenal. Vladlen, it's been awesome to have you on the Titans Up Today podcast.
It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure, Jacob, man. This is one of the better podcasts I've been on.
There we go. Good. That's a positive review. We'll take it.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. And I want to continue these things too. I want to keep continuing because it's good to follow up, to catch up on where we have been. And I want to see what your audience thinks too. Like, where do they want the conversation to go? What do they want to see more of? What do they want to know more? Whatever the audience needs. You're the shot caller when it comes to the audience. So whatever in terms of views and comments and feedback, audience right there, you guys right here. If you're watching this in the car like I do, I listen to a lot of my podcasts in the car, on the commute, to the office. What do you guys want to hear? What do you guys want to know? And how do you guys want this podcast to ring some bells, so to speak? What do you guys want to know? Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to create this relationship. I'm excited to be on this podcast, man. You did a great job. Great questions. You even challenged me on this podcast too. You were like, hey, I finally dug into your purpose. Thanks, Jacob. I got a little psychology session here today.
100%. 100%. That's the value I provide here to the world.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. Titans of today, baby.
Exactly. Yeah, we'll have to get you out here in person next time.
Yes.
We're going to get the studio set up.
Absolutely. You guys are out of where again?
I'm in Minnesota.
Minnesota. I need to check out Minnesota. I know an actor out of Minnesota who's in the same agency as me. Maybe I could reach out to her. She's very shy though, but I think she has a good story though. So I think if she wants to do this podcast, she can do it. I can start swinging people your way, man. You know how it is. I got you.
And then where can people reach out to you?
Right now, I actually have my own website. Just go to vladlenvronsky.com. It's my name right there. Just the whole name, no spaces, vladlenvronsky.com. That's my actor's website. That's where you'll see a lot of my reels, my videos, my photography, I have a blog coming soon, so you'll be able to see a blog there. I'm going to start writing regularly about different topics. It won't just be acting, it's just going to be who I am. It'll be my personal blog. Of course, I have an Instagram, VladdyV with two D's, VLADYV on Instagram. I'm also on Twitter _Russian_, and I'm on LinkedIn too. I'm actually pretty active on LinkedIn. I actually do enjoy LinkedIn. I don't have the premium service, but it's a great app. It's good to see like what our professional backgrounds is too. So if you want to learn more on what I do, if you want some technical expertise on something, anything business related, LinkedIn is a great place to reach out as well. But really, a lot of my personal social stuff is Instagram. A lot of my trading stuff is on Twitter. And a lot my acting and blog and personal life stuff is on my actual website. So yeah, those are the best place to reach out and check me out.
Perfect. We will include links to that in the description. So thank you all for watching the 41st episode of Titans Up Today. Hey everyone, thank you for watching this episode of Titans Up Today. What did you learn from it? Make sure to drop a comment below with your most valuable insight so that other people can engage in the conversation around what this speaker brought to the table. And then on another front, make sure to subscribe so that every time we drop a new episode, you will be notified. And that way you can keep fueling your dreams and your brain with fresh insights which can help you along your journey and along your path to your goals. So thank you so much again, and I look forward to seeing you in the next interview.